I'm out here in the very wild and windy Swiss Alps to test out the brand new Insta360 Ace Pro 2. I'm filming with it right now, and this camera has some amazing specs and features, meaning that alongside my X4, it is going to become my main camera for filming all of the content for both of my Instagram and YouTube channels. Today, I want to show you what it can do and how you might want to use it on your next ski or snowboard trip. Let's go. I've made this entire video using the Ace Pro 2. Every shot you see and all the audio you hear was recorded using the camera. There were no gimbals, microphones, or anything else like that. And the reason for that is very simple. I want to get the best image quality, stabilization, and sound, all from a camera that I can put in my pocket. It has to be able to work in harsh winter environments, whilst offering things like a wide field of view for head cam shots, a linear image with a perfectly level horizon for follow cams, and high frame rates that allow for smooth slow motion shots. Now, I guess you could say that this has been a mission statement for action cameras for a long time now, but the Ace Pro 2 is the latest and the best of the bunch. So let's start with the first feature you'll see a lot of people talking about with this camera. Now recording in glorious 8K. Can you see all the crevasses behind me? Can you see all the spots on my nose? Really, the level of detail is quite astounding. You can literally see the individual hairs on my chin poking through my buff. The Ace Pro did have 8K, but only up to 24 frames per second, whereas the Ace Pro 2 now brings that up to 30 frames per second. Realistically though, I'm going to be shooting all my videos in 4K, as it is in 4K that you get the higher frame rates that allow for smooth slow motion playback. So the option is there for super high 8K definition if you want it, but it does allow the camera to do some other amazing things too. One feature that's really cool with this camera is that you can double tap to zoom, and because this camera has the ability to shoot in 8K, when you zoom in 2 times, it's not just doing an optical zoom, which would mean the image would be more pixelated. You're actually still getting a really nice clear image. So let's take a look at all that snow, all those crevasses up there behind me. Beautiful, look at that. So thanks to that 8K sensor, you get a 2x zoom, which retains 4K image quality, and 4K is the level I want to bring all my footage to. So let me show you what this camera can do in 4K. The main mode that I will use to shoot my videos in is going to be 4K, 60 frames per second with active HDR mode turned on and complete 360-degree horizon lock. Now, that's a lot of features, so let me explain, starting with the 360-degree horizon lock. This is a must-have feature for me. It allows my cameraman to hold the Ace Pro without having to worry about keeping it level. The flow state stabilization smooths out all the bumps and shakes, and I'm going to be left with a gimbal-like shot that stays perfectly level. I always shoot in 60 frames per second, which allows me to slow everything down to half speed whenever I want. And what is new for the Ace Pro 2 is the ability to do all of this with active HDR mode turned on. I'll explain what that does in a change of scenery, because unfortunately after just a few hours on snow, the mountain closed down due to high winds. However, it is not all bad news that the mountain has been shut down today, because it has allowed me to come down here into the forest and test the camera out in some tricky lighting situations that I wasn't subject to up there on the glacier. And the reason that it's tricky is because whilst I have this bright sunshine beaming through, I also have dark shadows being cast by the trees, and that is exactly the kind of scenario that action cameras would usually struggle with. The reason is they have to either expose to the bright parts of the image and leave the shadows looking too dark without any detail within them, or they have to expose to the shadows, blowing out the sunnier sections. But by harnessing the processing power of the 2 AI chips within this camera, what we should be able to see is a picture that is properly exposing both the light and the dark sections of the image and showing more detail across the entire range. Very clever. And if you're someone that snowboards somewhere there's a lot of trees, you like to ride through the trees on a powder day, or perhaps you mountain bike in the forest, this is definitely a feature you're going to want to have on your camera. And whilst that scenario clearly showed off how the HDR works, I've also been really impressed with it for all my on-snow shooting as well, even if we don't have to fight with the shade that comes from trees high up on the glacier here. In the sun, the shadows that I created weren't too dark, and you can still see plenty of detail in those parts of the image. And when conditions were more cloudy, the image didn't have the really flat look that usually comes when you do shoot in these conditions. And to be honest, normally if it's anything but perfect sunshine, I won't shoot because the footage from an action cam just won't look that good. So having HDR available at 4K 60 frames all the time is a big one for me. It's just going to deliver more consistently usable footage. As you can see, right now I'm filming with that screen flipped up, which just makes it super easy for me to check that I'm properly filming myself, I'm centered in the frame and I'm not holding the camera too far away. I absolutely love this feature and it makes these vlogging scenarios so much easier to do. Right now, I'm using the audio direct from the camera, and this is one of the main things I wanted to test. If I can get clean, crisp audio in a mountain situation like this is going to be an absolute game changer for me. Previously in my videos, I would always use an external microphone with one of those furry wind jacket things, but it was a bit of a faff to set up and I had to always sync the audio to the camera track, and let's be honest, you guys aren't going to want to do that at all. So if we can get good audio from this, amazing. I mean, just look at these ropes shaking, look at these clouds whizzing across. It is incredibly windy right now, so if this camera can pick up any of my audio, that is just going to be quite amazing, to be honest. That right there really impressed me. Yeah, you could hear the wind, but it was honestly howling, and we don't want to completely cut out all wind noise. We want to know what it was like to be up there, and that was right before the mountain got shut down. But I was not expecting to pick up any vocal from that audio track whatsoever. Not to mention that I wasn't even talking directly to the camera like before, but it was instead mounted on my head, as you can see right here. So this good audio comes not just from the new wind guard on the camera, but is thanks to new improved audio algorithms that are being run in the camera's software and being powered by the dual AI chip within the camera. And it is those two AI chips that means that the AcePro 2's overall computing power is 100% more powerful than the previous Ace Pro, which had just the one AI chip. But with two chips, the AcePro 2 can now dedicate different tasks to each chip, and this makes the camera so much more efficient. And for you, in terms of what you'll see and what you'll notice, is a camera that brings performance upgrades, things like the HDR mode at 4K 60, whilst also giving much better image quality. And of course, you can use this camera to create so many different looks by simply changing the field of view. Amongst others, you have the linear mode that I've mostly been using because I like that natural look it gives. Whilst vlogging, I like to use the de-warp setting to get myself in the shot and separate me from the background a little bit. Or here we have the ultra wide angle that I like to use for head cam shots. The AcePro 2 increases the field of view compared to the Ace Pro, now offering a 157 degree field of view wide angle shot, which is perfect for head cams or when you want to get in really close to the action, like in these slow motion clips, which I'm shooting here at 120 frames per second, all still in 4K. And that is going to allow me to really slow down the footage to a quarter of the speed without losing any of that 4K image quality that I want. And if you want total flexibility in post-production, then you can shoot in FreeForm Mode, which will give you the option to pick your desired field of view, level of stabilization, and even aspect ratio after you've taken the shot. That's what I did in this video, and that means the clips I've already used here, which are in that 16:9 aspect ratio, that landscape mode ideal for YouTube, I've also exported out in a vertical format, perfect for Instagram Reels. Now, I mentioned in the intro that the AcePro 2 will become my main camera alongside the X4. So I'll be choosing to use the X4 for self-filming. As you can see here with this footage, it is such a good camera for filming in really close quarters. But for pretty much all other scenarios, I'll be using the AcePro 2. I want to be able to give this much more natural look that you get when shooting in linear mode. And because of all the features I mentioned, and particularly the HDR image processing at 4K 60, I'm able to get a much better image than with any other previous action cam. This camera will make my life easier, particularly with innovations like the flip-up screen, combined with incredible audio on this camera that will make any vlogging situations I have an absolute breeze. So, I've got links to the brand new AcePro 2 down below. you're going to see me using this camera to film all of my upcoming videos this winter. So check it out. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back with some snowboarding videos very soon.